Mayra Rodriguez started working for Planned Parenthood as a young woman. Well, over the years, she moved up to be a clinic director. That's when she saw some very, very dark practices that she had not known about before. In fact, she blew the whistle and was promptly fired. But like so many brave mamas, Mayra did not take this termination sitting down. She stood up and she fought. Her story is amazing, and it's coming up next. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hi, I'm Debbie Carlitis, your host, and thank you once again for joining us here on the Moms for America podcast. I'm so glad that you're here, Mama. Right here at the top of the show, we do want to invite you to like and to subscribe to our podcast. Please go ahead and do that. Unfortunately, we are being censored everywhere we go, so we need to be sharing and spreading the word. We also do ask that you share this with your mom friends and let them know about these podcasts. We believe that they're just great information about the culture and help our community raise strong, powerful children. All right. I also do want to invite our moms that are listening here to join the movement at Moms for America. If you've not joined us, would you please come on and join us? We are moms uniting all across the country, fighting for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. You can check us out at momsforamerica.us, who we are, what we're doing, and all the resources and all kinds of seminars, webinars, everything that you can imagine we are providing for you as a mama as you train up your children. Also, if you have an idea for the podcast, like maybe a special guest or a topic that you would like to discuss or some feedback, would you email me personally at podcast@momsforamerica.net? I would love to hear from you. Alrighty, on to today's program. Well, Mayra Rodriguez grew up in Mexico, but she came to the U.S. as a young woman hoping to live out the American dream. That dream came in the form of a job at Planned Parenthood. Mayra worked there for over 15 years and moved up the ranks. She was quite the superstar at this Planned Parenthood clinic. In 2016, she became the director of the largest, and I'll hear this, the largest abortion clinic in Arizona. But once she was in that position, she saw a different and much darker side of Planned Parenthood. And she just simply knew she could not keep quiet about it. She's here to tell us her story and explain why she went from being one of Planned Parenthood's biggest, strongest advocates to one of their fiercest adversaries. Welcome, Mayra, to the Moms for America podcast. We're so glad to have you joining us today. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure and honor to join Moms for America today.
Well, we always love to know a little bit about the moms and their families. So can you tell us about what your family consists of? What's your tribe like over there?
Well, we're Latinos, right? Born and raised in Mexico. So you can imagine it's a large family. My husband and I have 6 kids.
Nice.
And, I always like to tell people, how the Latinos are when the kids leave home, then the parents move in, right? That's how we are. That's how Latinos are. We're very family oriented, very state in the united. So my dad lives here. My mom comes and goes to different houses between my brothers and I. So I do have 2 brothers. One lives in California, and then one lives here in Phoenix, Arizona. And they each have their kids, and we moved to this country when I was about 17 years of age. So I've been here most of my life. I would like to say that it's my country, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure. But that's my family, So my parents are in their 70s. So I was the chosen one to take care of them, as I'm the girl. They didn't choose me. I chose them. So that's what it is. That's my family dynamic.
Oh, that's wonderful. And 6 kids, you're pretty busy there. So between your parents and the kids and all you're doing, you're busy mama over there. So thank you. I'm excited to share your story and really what you've done here in America to fight for our country and fight for our kids. So let's talk a little bit about your experiences with Planned Parenthood. When you started here, you believed as a young woman that you were providing services for women. You were pro-choice, and you just felt you weren't thinking about the abortion industry as much as I guess as you were about providing services. Is that kind of how you came into this?
Yes, of course. And actually, when I first started working for Planned Parenthood, I was very pro-life. I mean, I was born and raised Catholic in Mexico
Right.
City. So, I mean, I have heard about abortions, but I wasn't that knowledgeable on it, if you may
Okay.
call it that way, right? I mean, abortions were illegal back then in Mexico City, back there in Mexico. So knowing about abortions were not a topic of daily discussion at home at your dinner table, right? Because that didn't happen in your country, right? So when I joined Planned Parenthood, and I didn't know they do abortions at the beginning. My friend told me they help women.
Okay.
And obviously they did tell me in the interview, so what do you think about abortion? And I thought I answered like a great Catholic person. I wouldn't have one, but if someone else does, that's their problem, right? Like that's between them and God, right? I wouldn't have one. To be honest with you, I will never had an abortion. I had a miscarriage my first pregnancy, and that broke me so much that to me the thinking of abortion was not nearby. But I was hired to do preventive services, right? Prevent them from getting there, right? And it is that tactic of Planned Parenthood to change your mindset, right? Slowly by just
Okay.
kind of planting that seed of this is a woman's right to choose. This is the women's
Mhm.
right to do whatever she wants with her body. Now
Mhm.
go out and inject it into your community, Mayra.
Okay. So now, Myra, you come in, you start working for Planned Parenthood. Does this clinic do abortions, or was that later in your life?
It was later on my life. I
Okay.
mean, I have gone in and out the abortion facility. When I started working for Planned Parenthood, the location I was on, it was a
Mhm.
two-floor building, not that big, not like the ones you had in Texas or New York or other places in Arizona. The first one where I work at was a two-story. The top floor was the administration, and at the bottom, one side was the abortion facility, one side was the contraceptive clinic. I started on the contraceptive clinic. When they were
Okay.
short staffed on the abortion side, they will get the contraceptive people to come and help. I was really good at getting blood, really, really good, because that's what I went to school for in Mexico City. I was a phlebotomist, if you want to call it
Oh,
something. I was a
okay.
lab technician in Mexico City. I graduated with a technical diploma. So basically, I was really good at getting blood samples and doing lab runs and really fast. So at the beginning, I helped them. Like it was back in those days when they would line up women in the street, and then I will poke their finger one after the other. And once I was done with that, I will go back to my preventive side.
Okay. So you had minimal experience on the abortion side. Your everyday work for, full time was over there at the preventative care, which is
Yes.
obviously handing out contraceptives. And then if someone did want to talk about an abortion, then you would refer them.
Yes, little by little, I was trained to sell abortions.
Okay. Say that again. Little by little, you were trained to sell abortions because this is
Yes,
something that we have to understand. This is Planned Parenthood's top moneymaker is abortion, and
yes.
everyone knows that. That's very clear. This is how they survive. This is their mission.
Exactly, exactly. And little by little, they train you to do the selling part, right? And the way they move your chip around your brain is like you're just helping women. You're helping that 16-year-old go back to school. You're helping that mom with the three kids to be able to afford to have the three kids, right? You're helping that college kid to graduate and become a lawyer one day, right?
Mm,
So that chip that they keep planting you, this is what they need, and they will be better, right? I think one of the biggest lies that I told women and that they told me and that I strongly believe, call me naive. A lot of people will call me dumb, and that's fine. But it was abortion is safer than pregnancy. I
wow.
remember saying that to them so many times.
That is shocking that they would give you that verbiage and that they could convince you of that because we know that abortion is not safer than pregnancy.
Right, but they list you all the possibilities, all these bad scenarios that could happen on a pregnant woman, right? Like she could end
Wow.
up with this, she could end up with diabetes, she could end up with this, she could end up with that, and then you
Wow.
start believing it. But we'll talk about why you actually believe the lies, right?
Yeah,
We'll talk
right.
about it in the later part.
So now, after 16 years, you then were moved up in the organization. Tell us about that and how your role changed. You actually became a clinic director. Is that correct?
Well, actually, in about 2010, I became the director of the first non-abortion facility. Then I became the training coordinator for the state of Arizona, meaning I will train all the staff in Arizona. Then I became the director of another facility. So by 2016, I was already directing 2 facilities simultaneously, Flagstaff and Phoenix, Arizona, because of all that awesome job by Mayra. Like I was their golden child. I was a very loyal employee. I was dedicated. I was always there. I work harder than anyone. Why? Because as an immigrant, I was thanking them for the American dream. They gave me that, right? They gave me that empowerment as an immigrant that maybe no one else could have given me, right? And so I thought. So
You were
obviously,
just right. You were dedicated to this opportunity, and
I
they
was
had convinced
dedicated
you
to
that
the
you were
mission.
doing good.
Yes. And I was very dedicated to the mission and vision of this company, right? I call them a corporation now. I don't ever call them a nonprofit or organization. They're a corporation.
Sure.
So I was very dedicated to their business, let's say it that way. And they gave me Employee of the Year award in 2016. And that was chosen by all the employees. Like they voted for me.
You know what? Right now, actually, Myra, I'd like to just pause for a moment because the messaging that they taught you is really the messaging that they're teaching this culture. So really, to the moms that are listening, what they taught you as a director or an employee is what they're selling to our children, right? You can't go to school, you can't complete your dreams or your goals, and you can't take care of your children, you can't have babies and survive and be successful, basically. So this is really what not only did they teach you as an employee, but what they're teaching the culture, correct?
Exactly. Yes, that's what they're teaching. That's what they're injecting them. And little by little, what do we see that they're calling all this? Love. This is for love. A mom kills their baby for love. Love to herself first, love to the other children, love to her career, right? Or all the other ideology that they're calling love too, right? And if we love them, we will let them do whatever they want with their bodies and not even interfere. That's what they're calling. They're calling it love and confusing our young children with such a beautiful word given by our God. That love, that's not what love means. Love means taking care of each other.
I just wanted to pause for that because I just want our moms to just understand that this isn't what's happening just with employees. This is obviously what's happening through our culture. And they're targeting Black and brown communities all across the country, right? That's what Planned Parenthood comes in, and that's where they set up shop, is in the Black and brown communities continually, right? I'm sure you saw that, and I'm just speaking to you just as a Latina woman.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I was hired because I was Hispanic. I was an immigrant. They needed me to go out into the immigrant communities, attract why? I mean, let's remember, this is how it all started. 1938, Harlem, New York, Black people working for Margaret Sanger at the Black centers. So then these Black people will come. Why? Because we tend to see if it's our race, they're not against us. They're caring for us. Therefore, they should not sell us something that will harm us, right? Like it's our people. Why would our people try to hurt us?
Wow. Well, let's talk about now. So we've established that you were very involved in Planned Parenthood, top employee, director, trainer, all this stuff. And somehow something within you started not adding up correctly. And you basically went on to be a whistleblower and expose. What started happening in your mind, in your heart? What were you starting to see now? Because you were really, you were in leadership. So you saw things that you didn't see 10, 15 years ago.
Right. So, well, remember I told you I got the Employee of the Year award. I'm already directing 2 centers. And then they go, hey, Mayra, I want you to be the director of the abortion facility in Arizona, the biggest one, the one that operates 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. And I was like, no, thank you. I've been happy on the other side, right? I'm happy where I am. I've been here 16 years. No need to get involved. And they were like, no choice. You're going to take it because Trump will defund us and we will close the Title 10 centers and you won't have a job. That moment, you know, everything crosses your mind. You're like, do I do it? Do I not do it? So then I jump in and took care of the abortion facility at the end of 2016.
The largest abortion facility in Arizona. I just want to say that once again. Okay.
7 days a week, my friend.
Wow.
7 days a week. I mean, they operate Sunday through Saturday.
What was the culture like going into something like this now? Because again, before you were training, it was preventative. Now you're basically seeing rotating destruction of life.
Yeah, see, and in my naive mind, I was like, well, I'm never directly involved, right? I'm always on this side. Okay. You know, I'm preventing. I used to argue with people on the side and be like, hey, I prevent more abortions than you do because I give them the pills, right? Or I give them the sex education in school. So I do a better job than you do on the sidewalk, right? So I thought. Then I jump in and become the director of the biggest abortion facility. And I start seeing, well, the first thing you said, right? What is it like on that? I didn't want the job because I knew that it was a hard clinic to manage. Employees were not happy. Dealing with the abortionist was a nightmare. Well, of course, they think they're God. Can you imagine? They pick and choose who lives and dies. So they behave like that. They're arrogant. They're mean. They're inhumane. They're literally not, like, sometimes I think they're not even human because some of them are such a cold-hearted people. You know, and then the patients are unhappy to be there. Of course, no woman is happy to be at an abortion facility. Of course. They're sad to be there. They're worried. They don't want that. I don't care how many TikToks we see today of people jumping happy. I'm getting my abortion. It's not true. I was there. Not ever did a woman walk through that door celebrating that she was having an abortion. Right. They don't want to be there. So can you imagine what it feels like to be there? It's darkness. So of course I didn't want it because the employee retention, it's horrible. They don't want to work there. They go for employees like, I mean, they last what? Like my scenario was the 1 in a million because why? I wasn't directly involved with abortion. Because I mean, if you speak to other directors like Abby Johnson, what did they last? 6-8 years?
Right.
Top.
Right.
And most of employees are
what a tough. Right. What a tough industry to be a part of. I mean, nobody's waking up every day feeling like, hey, even though I know they're talking you into it, it has got to be so dark and sad and oppressive. So I can't even imagine, like you said, what is the retention rate? And now you start seeing things that are very questionable. Let's talk about what you saw and what are some of the examples? Because we don't know, what is it to blow the whistle on Planned Parenthood? What were you noticing that was wrong, dangerous? Let's just say downright dangerous to young women, because they say they're safe, but you're saying they're not safe. Nope. By no means.
By all means. You know, the other day I was speaking at a conference. They asked me, so how many women do you think get hurt in an abortion? I said 100%. Every single one of them gets hurt. So what is it that I started noticing? You know, the first thing was, I was told for so many years, what I do at the preventive side, it's what matters, because abortion is only 3%, Mayra. Well, the deposit from this abortion facility was over 20 grand. My other locations barely deposited $1,000. That's on a very good day, right? So I was like, that's on 3%. I have a quota to see at least 45 patients a day, 45 women for abortion. I barely saw 12, 15 patients on a good day on the other side.
So that's your quota. Wow. Okay. So they want 45 potential abortions walking through that door, or completed probably.
Remember? 7 days a week.
Wow.
7 days a week, not just Monday through Friday, but the 7 days, at least 45 women walk through that door. 15 abortion pills and 30 surgicals. And then I started seeing that women were getting hurt. They were getting perforated almost daily. And it was the medical director.
What happens there? What happens when a perforation happens?
Well, a perforation is very easy to happen. Why? Because the instrument that they're using to perform the abortion, and just so people know, there's no way, like, just this is the way they have done abortion since 1970s. They have no other way to do it. A lot of people will argue, well, maybe they develop a better technique. There is no way to make abortion safe. There's no way. They came up with the pill, it's still not safe.
Right.
So when those instruments go in and they break the urine wall, that's called a perforation. It's very easy to happen. You wouldn't know that most of the abortionists don't even notice that they have perforated a woman. And that's why on the surgical pre-op consent, it says you could be perforated. We can perforate you. You can lose your life. You can die today.
You sign away on this. You sign your rights away, I'm sure. Right.
You sign your safety rights to Planned Parenthood, and this is why we don't see a lot of lawsuits, because they signed it, right? Sure. They knew those were with the consequences. Whether that patient really actually understood what that meant. Why? Because I was trained to train my employees, and they were trained at the abortion facilities that when a woman asks, well, how often does this happen? Well, not that often, 38%. Well, of course, because they don't notice when they do it. B, when it happens, they don't report it, which was the other thing I blew the whistle on, not reporting the consequences or any reaction by the woman or any kind of problem happening during the abortion was not reported. And by law, it has to be reported. Now, I'm lucky we're in a state that we have to report that, right? Because California doesn't have to, Oregon doesn't have to, Washington State doesn't have to. I mean, I can name about 15 states in our country that don't have to report complications, but Arizona did require complications to be reported. And so that was not happening.
Let me make sure I understand this. So not only were there almost 40% of perforations happening, then they would falsify the documents, the patient's charts, and saying that there weren't complications.
Yes. Actually, I will tell you that over 60% of the patients will come back with some complication that was not reported. 60%, like it was a big percentage. We will get records from the hospitals that they had to repair them surgically. He will still refuse to put it on there. He will still refuse to alert the health department that has happened. And then unfortunately, somewhere along the line, the hospital didn't have to report it anymore. He sends it back to the original doctor for him to do the reporting.
Wow, passing the buck back and forth, hoping that somebody drops the information and doesn't get calculated or reported.
Of course.
What about blood pressure numbers? I saw something about here.
Yes.
That was another situation, right?
Yes, it was. So for the abortion pill, there has to be your blood pressure has to be in normal range, right? They will constantly tweak in the numbers. Like, for example, I remember one day one of the employees said, Mayra, I've already checked your blood pressure 3 times. It's high, but he said he's going to check it for her and his is normal. I was like, Now, who do we trust? The one that checks blood pressure all the time, or the actual physician that hardly ever has to do a blood pressure check? I mean, I understand he's a physician and he thinks he's God, and corrected him is like a big no-no. If you ever had to deal with doctors, most of them, you can't correct them, right? Because they think they're the top of the human chain. So correcting a doctor. So she was like, but I know it's not true. And I'm like, of course it's not true, because that employee had checked the blood pressure with a machine manually. And then he came in and took it manually. And it was like something way off of what she just had it. And they did that constantly, including iron levels, tweaking the results, ultrasound, so they will fall into the guidelines of the gestational legal size, and that's a common practice in our country, sadly, in the world. It is a common practice that they will twitch on. Why? Because they know that no one's going to come and say, hey, give me all the ultrasounds and let me make sure they were done properly, and hire someone that actually investigates that those ultrasounds were done properly. I mean, I used to be an ultrasound trainer. I used to train people, me, with just a medical lab technician diploma from Mexico and some college courses from here. I get trained to do ultrasounds, and I train people to do ultrasounds. But still, and that is a common thing in the abortion industry. They don't have to have ultrasonographers that went to school for 2 years to get a license to do that. All they have to do is do gestational sizing training, and no one comes after them and said, let me look at those ultrasounds and make sure you're doing them right.
Mayra, is it true, and I've heard this just, collection of people speaking about Planned Parenthood, that these clinics have some of either the worst doctors, failed doctors, and just the worst type of surgical they have no high standards, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like you're saying that you don't have to be trained and have a certain degree of medical to work in these clinics. It's like there's no, it's like the wild, wild west. There's really no level of importance when you're dealing with a woman's life. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, you know what should scare you? That in the
So
abortion
frustrating.
industry, yes, in the abortion industry, Planned Parenthood is the one closest. They don't, but they're closer to try to meet the standards. Can you imagine the private abortionists and no one even cares that they exist, that no one even knows they do abortions? Can you imagine that? I mean, Planned Parenthood knows that they're the eye of the hurricane, whether they like it or not.
Right.
So they kind of try, but who's helping them? I mean, right now I own a trucking company, Deb, and if my truck got stopped by the DOT, the US DOT, on the highway, and the tire is worn out, or there's something wrong with the truck, like an engine light on, he will stop the truck. I will have to get it towed, get all the freight of the truck, and deliver it some other way, lose a lot of money.
Sure.
But the abortion industry, I was called to schedule my inspection. You heard me. The inspector from the health department will say, Mayra, we'll be there between May 25th and May 28th, between 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Does that work for you? I mean, you have seen them going to
You've
a restaurant.
Got plenty of time, right? You've got plenty of time to get your act together.
We're going to check this. We're going to check that. We need 10 charts of this. We need 10 charts of that. So Planned Parenthood legal team will pull up the 20 charts that look correct and perfect and hand that over.
Unreal. You also said that minors, you didn't report that minors were being impregnated by adults. Like there was just so many things that were so wrong.
Which is called a statutory rape. But are we surprised that the abortion industry is aiding human trafficking and sex trafficking? No. I mean, that's not a surprise, but they constantly look the other way. You know, it's like, Mayra, just do your job. Ask her if she's safe at home.
Right. So they would even confess certain things and they would just go on and just proceed down their way of providing abortions. Altogether, unqualified workers, not qualified doctors, obviously, manipulative.
We can't even call them doctors, Deb. At this point, can we call abortionists doctors?
No, you're right. Absolutely. But just the whole, it's just such a bad scene. I can't even imagine what all you saw. You even report here that that there was the baby's body parts were left in the woman's body.
Yes.
You saw that.
That was my wake-up call. That was it. That was the top of the iceberg. That was it. That was it. It was a 14-week baby on a 19-year-old, and he had left the baby head inside above an IUD that he had inserted. An IUD, it's a preventive contraceptive tea, like a tea made out of copper that they insert on women. And he had already inserted that on the 19-year-old at her mom's request, right? And they couldn't find the baby head. The state of Arizona had a legislation that said that he was not even supposed to insert that IUD before making sure that all the baby parts were accounted for. But he constantly will do this. He falsified the affidavits that the state had in place. He will just literally sign them whenever he wanted to and stamp them whenever he wanted to. And then he didn't even go check in the room. Of course, he has to see 45 women at least every 15 minutes. I always like to say a dentist takes longer just telling you what he's going to do in your mouth than an abortionist killing a baby, dismembering a baby. So the employee came out and said, we're missing the head, and he's not listening. He already inserted an IUD. He's moving to the next room. I don't know what to do. I know he's going to fire me. So we went in the back and argued with him. He agreed to repeat the ultrasound. We found the baby head above the IUD. So that 19-year-old, in less than 30 minutes, had 2 aspirations done. They inserted the IUD twice, and they didn't tell her anything. He did not document it.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, even during my court case, when we brought up the chart, it was still not documented.
But you saw it. You know, everyone knows what's happening at these clinics. Everyone knows what's happening in their workplace. People talk, people discover, people understand. So let's talk about this now. So that was it for you. Now you have been in a journey of questioning,
Yes.
disappointed.
Long 9 months.
Right. Long 9 months and seeing 9 months. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Term of a baby. But you knew now you had to do something. You felt really God was just asking you in your soul to speak the truth. What did you do and who did you speak to?
Well, I left the clinic that day, called my supervisor, said, that's it. I mean, you don't do something. I will. I will call the health department. I will call the medical board. I will call the federation. I will say, I have all the documentation. I have been keeping proof of all the errors he has done, of all the wrong things he has done, and I will do something about this. I don't care if you fire me. I don't care what happens to me, but I will not stop until he stopped touching women. And you can imagine what happened. A few days later, I did get fired. Planned Parenthood fired me, accusing me of having narcotics on my desk while I was out. Can you imagine it? Imagine that you're working in an office and you're gone for a few days because they send you to another location. And then they call you to a meeting and they're like, hey, well, you were out from your office in Glendale, Arizona. We found narcotics. Now you're fired. Bye.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So
now, right. Total setup. So now they're dishonest with you. They want to just frame you, basically, discredit you, but you didn't let them stop you, from what I understand.
Well, if you think about it, it was very easy, right? Let's blame the immigrant from having drugs in her desk. Who's going to not believe us, right? So obviously that was not playing on my side.
Right. But Mayra, they're forgetting the fact that you're Employee of the Year. You know, you have all of the, all of this accolades from this company that appreciated you, but now all of a sudden you're not, right? Because you don't agree with them. So how did this lawsuit go? Who did you speak to? You went on, did you go to the health department?
Yeah, I think they were also counting on the fact that they hired me being an undocumented person. That you heard right. I moved to this country with a tourist visa, but I became undocumented, and they knew that. They knew I didn't have the right paperwork to work in this country, and they didn't care. I wasn't the only one in that situation working for Planned Parenthood. They have many employees without documents working for them. So they thought, man, she's not going to do anything, she's just an immigrant, right? So when I left, I mean, thanks to the people on the sidewalk, I met my lawyer, Tim Casey, and you can just imagine that first appointment at his office. I mean, I told him my story, and they set me up, and they did this, and then did that. And he goes, I believe you. I believe you. And he decided to take on my case, and we took them to court. And we took them to court in 2017. And it was a wrongful termination under the Whistleblower Protection Act, which thankfully it exists in this state and in this beautiful country. And we took on Planned Parenthood, and that lawsuit lasted almost 2 years.
Okay.
August 2019, we went to trial. Just so you know, all members of the jury were pro-choice and pro-abortion and pro-Planned Parenthood. The judge was a Democrat. I like to say that because her biography says for women's rights, reproductive rights. So we all know what that means. It's the secret, lovely word to call it pro-abortion. And so against all odds, the truth won in that courtroom. With God's help, we took on Planned Parenthood, and in a unanimous decision, the jury sided with me, and that the Planned Parenthood had done wrong by terminating me when I blew the whistle.
Wow. What a story, Mama. What a story. I mean, I'm sure that was not easy. I'm sure that was some difficult days, but now,
yes, it was.
Yeah.
But as a mom, you tell your kids to speak the truth. I mean, I'm sure that I told my son, when you see something, do something. Don't let kids get in bully. Like when you see something wrong, it's time to speak up. And so how could you stay quiet? To me, it was an obligation. Speaking up was an obligation. I couldn't live with myself.
So here, I want to ask you, so wrongful termination that was your lawsuit. Yes. Was this clinic exposed for the horrendous acts and falsifying documentation and unsafe clinic? Was any of that exposed?
Well, my case exposed them, but if your question is, has anything legally happened to them? The answer is no.
Okay.
Because, again, the abortion industry literally gets away with murder.
Right. Literally, right. So that clinic still functioning and probably still practicing with the same
Yes,
terrible
7 days
codes.
a week, 7 days
Wow.
a week. And
Mm,
they Planned Parenthood does this every time that something like this happens.
yeah.
When they know that they're gonna get close to getting like exposed, they just come and clean house. They get rid of the abortions, they get rid of the CEO, they get rid of all the employees. It's like we're gonna start fresh. So if
Okay.
anyone questions them, then they go, oh yeah, but that's why everyone's gone. We're starting fresh.
Right. So yeah, they clean the slate just to do it all over again.
Exactly.
So now, this is what I love now. So fast forward, you actually do a lot of speaking for life, right? And you
Yes.
started a group called Democrats for Life to speak to Latinos about political issues and about abortion and the cultural issues. I love the way that you're approaching this. Tell our audience.
Well, Democrats for Life has existed. I know a lot of people don't know about them. But when I joined them, it was to create that chapter of Hispanic Democrats for Life, which is, to me, I was fooled by the Democrat Party too. Like, I'm gonna convince something here. I was a big fan of Obama. I know, I know. I was naive, right?
Sure.
I believe what the media told me. I believe they
Right.
were the good guys. And then, of course, he wanted me to continue having a job, right? So, of course, I mean, I was in favor of Obama because I worked for Planned Parenthood. And believe it or not, when I started working for Planned Parenthood, I didn't know what being in politics involved Planned Parenthood meant. To me, it was a medical facility.
Mm,
What did they care who wins or loses the White House? Well, after a few years, I started understanding what it means. It means money to Planned
sure.
Parenthood. The Democrat Party is in
All
the
their
House,
funding. Yep.
it's a lot of millions of dollars for them. But if the Democrat Party is not in the House, it's defunded. So
Mhm.
then I start getting why. And I saw that my Latino community gets misinformed a lot too. So obviously, when you come in with anything red and knock on the door, well, they're not going to talk to you, right? Because the media
Right.
has told them that Republicans hate them.
Mm,
The bad hombres, right? They like to put that word around like if Trump had said something outrageous, right? When we know that a lot of people across our border, I mean, I'm Mexican. I can
right.
tell you that a lot of people crossing the border are bad hombres. It's not our fault. They do
Right.
exist. So, but the Latino are confused thinking that the Democrats are the only ones on the side of the Latino. And my message to them always when I speak to the communities about Democrat or Republican parties, if a politician is willing to let anyone kill your child up to birth, they don't care about you. They
Right.
will never care about you. A politician that is not willing to protect the most vulnerable does not care. But
Right.
the Democrat Party has done such a good job fooling the immigrant
Yeah,
side
they
by
have.
promising them a false promise that there will be an immigration reform that will never exist.
Yeah. So you use this organization just as a connection, actually, as a place where everybody can kind of speak truth instead of really about a political party. And I love that Democrats for Life because it is kind of, I think a lot of Latinos, obviously, like you said, are with the Democratic Party, but yet they're pro-life. So it's a great combination. It's a good place to start with them. Thank you for doing that. I just think
And
that
of
that
course,
is
we have
genius.
to switch the Democrat side, right?
Right.
Because otherwise, we have to get into those
We have to
Democrats.
go
We
to
have
them,
to.
right?
We
We have
have
to
to.
go to them and help explain and
Yes.
understand. And your story is so powerful because you went through this entire journey. You came in, you know, you're you came in, you saw what was really there, and you were willing to understand and change and then be the change. So thank you for what you're doing. And what do you say to Latina moms that are listening or that we've had Latina friends or just moms in general about this culture and just really kind of some words of advice from where you came to where you are now? I'd love to hear that from you, Mayra.
Well, to me, this new killing culture, let's call it killing because it's not only about abortion now, right? It's about
Right,
euthanasia too.
right,
It's an attack to our culture. It's an attack to the Latino culture. I mean, Deb,
right.
I'm very happy to tell you that I have over 40 cousins. that's who Latinos are, like you have family when you didn't
Big
even know your
families,
family
yes.
existed. That's who we are. That is our culture. And that is the African American culture too, big families. But this killing new era, it's just attacking our culture. They don't want us to reproduce. They don't want a lot of us. And that's exactly what the Latino need to understand. When someone asks you, when we train or we teach our kids to kill their children, eventually they will have no problem killing us.
Right.
Well,
We
you
desensitize
told
them.
me
Yes.
that when I was 16, I was pregnant and I shouldn't be carrying the burden of a child. Therefore, I should kill my child. Then when you are 70, 80 years old, I shouldn't carry the burden of a parent. Then I should kill my parent.
Right.
And that's what we teach them. We teach our children to kill their children, and therefore they will eventually have no problem putting us to sleep too.
Right.
And that's what we need to change our culture.
It is. It is a culture war of death. Life has become something that is just completely not respected. And it is. It's like once you desensitize our children between abortions and guns and games and then depression and drugs and so I mean we're doing such an injustice to this next generation that there is just not even any hope for them. But I love that we as moms all across the country are standing up and saying, no, you are not taking our children. You are not taking next generation. We are fighting for hope and life and truth. And thank you, Mayra, for what you did. Thank you for standing for truth. And thank you for being such an inspiration. I mean, come on. A lot of people would not have risen to the occasion, but you ran into it. So God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it is an honor to just join my voice to many of the voices that already exist in this movement that know the truth. It took me a while, but now I want to reverse as much of the damage that I created. One of the things that scares me is how many of those crazy teenagers on the street that chant my body, my choice are doing that because I went to their school and planted that seed. So now I want to plant the seed for the opposite. Like tell them, I'm sorry. Those were a bunch of lies that I was told to tell you. And the truth is this. And the truth is what they can never hide, and it will prevail.
Well, thank you, Mayra. Thank you for being a voice for life. And thank you for joining Moms for America in Arizona. I mean, that is so wonderful. We're glad to have you on board. And, we're moms uniting all across the country and fighting for faith, family, freedom, the Constitution. So thank you for joining our team. Yeah, we're glad to be working with you.
Right?
It takes
a mom to take back our country.
That's right. That's what we believe. Our moms are going to save our country. So God bless you. And thank you for sharing your story. And I hope to meet you in person soon.
Oh, I hope so too. Thank you so much. Thank you, Moms for America.
What an amazing story. Wow. Moms like Mayra changing the culture and fighting for life. Thanks again, Mayra. We appreciate you sharing your story. Well, obviously, this is just another example of the darkness behind Planned Parenthood. We've heard this over and over again. It is a culture of death there. Mom, that's why we need to continue to fight and expose and educate our children about the truth, just like Mayra did. We have a lot of information about Planned Parenthood, a lot of information on our website. Again, I want to encourage you to stop by and check it out. Here at Moms for America, we are here to help you learn about the culture, learn about resources, opportunities to teach our children. If you can go ahead, we want to tell everyone, if you can go ahead and sign up for our newsletter, this is how you'll find out about a lot of the information that we share. You can check out our newsletter and sign up for it on our website, which is momsforamerica.us. When you're there, we also want to share with you about our signature program, which is cottage meetings. This is another great resource that you can help educate and inspire your kids. Moms absolutely love the cottage meetings. You'll say, well, what is it? You'll find it on our website, but let me just tease it. It's 12 lessons that inspire and educate you about America's amazing heritage. So you can teach your children about the principles of liberty in your home and in your community. Again, this is all about us as moms training and teaching and educating our children. This program, along with many of our other programs on our website, will help you impact your family in a very powerful way. We say from parental rights to public policy, from the kitchen table to Congress, Moms for America is here to help you with resources and information. right? We always say the strong mama, strong home. Doesn't mean that we're perfect, but if we can build up our moms and help them learn about America's history, learn about what's happening in the culture, they can go back and teach that to their children at their kitchen table when they pray with them in the evening. We say this every night, moms. We believe that liberty begins at home and that you moms, you are the heartbeat of America. That's why this movement, Moms for America, is so powerful, because it's moms just like you saving our children and saving our country. So we love you, moms. I hope you join us next week for another inspiring and informative discussion for moms just like you. Also, remember, let's keep changing our world one home at a time. Hope to see you next week.